Home is where the heart is, the saying goes. And while people interpret home differently, we tend to share a common concept. It's the place we return to, the place where we relax, cook, sleep, and most importantly, feel safe. For most of us, home is more than shelter. It's a necessary part of stable life, so baked into our worldview that living without one feels unimaginable. And like everything else we rely on, the idea of home has evolved. But we don't usually think about it as something that evolves. You could argue the very idea of home is unnatural. Most species don't build homes, they live in the world as it is. A snail grows its shell. A bear finds a cave and does little to modify it. Even the hermit crab just picks up what fits and carries it. But humans, our bodies are fragile and soft. Our brains, however, are formidable. Evolution gave us the power to design safety instead of inheriting it. At first, we nested in trees, then we sheltered in caves. Trees protected us from predators, caves from the elements, but neither did both. So we started building huts. Then huts became houses. Wood and leaves gave way to stone, brick, and mortar. As civilization grew, so did complexity. Kitchen, bedrooms, bathrooms, sanitation. And with that complexity came something new, a need for planning. Every construction begins with a plan, but not just any plan, a blueprint that makes sense. One that balances vision with realism. A good architect translates your needs into something that others can actually build. A good blueprint tells the builder what to build, the electrician where to wire, and the client what to expect. But what happens when the plan is wrong, or worse, ambiguous? Picture three contractors reading the same blueprint and coming to three different conclusions. Walls set in different spots, stairs with no railing, pipes sealed inside concrete. On paper, it looks fine. In reality, it's dysfunctional, unsafe, unlivable. The problem didn't come from bad builders. It came from a flawed design. That's why good construction depends on clear plans, drawn by competent architects and followed by crews who share the same standards. Anything less is a recipe for chaos. When people imagine the perfect home, their answers vary. Some point to luxurious villas or city penthouses. Others prefer a simple countryside house with space and silence. And then there are dreamers, people who imagine futuristic homes, ones that monitor your health, grow your food, or help you survive disasters. If you left it up to me, I'd probably imagine something absurd. A private pocket of space-time I could anchor to this reality, where I'm shielded from entropy, heat death, or matter decay. A bunker for a soul. But I know this is just human fantasy, stitched together by a brain that wants too much. Realistically, the best home is one that adapts. Good construction doesn't just solve current needs, it leaves room for what might come. Take elevators. Many older buildings lack them, which effectively locks out the elderly or disabled. That's often a permanent flaw. Compare that to parking space. When the world shifts to ride-sharing or autonomous transport, parking becomes dead space, but it can be repurposed. In my building, there were PVC conduits inside the wall, originally for phone cables. Within 10 years, those were obsolete. But thanks to those conduits, it was cheap and easy to operate to network cables. In a few years, they'll likely be replaced with optic fiber. Upgradability matters not because you can predict everything, but because you can't. A good plan doesn't guarantee success. You still need stable ground. Sometimes the terrain is simply too unstable. Other times it could be adapted, but only with massive time and resource cost that outweighs the benefit. So you either invest wisely or move on. Because no matter how brilliant the blueprint is, if the foundation fails, the entire structure crumbles. Tradition gets overly glorified. Some people insist on using old materials or outdated methods purely out of stubbornness or dogma. But in most cases, these are emotional choices, not reasonable ones. Structures built this way often fail to meet modern needs. They can't support new technologies. They are less safe, less efficient, and less comfortable. They become monuments to stagnation. Seeing this, some people go to the opposite extreme. They abandon all structure entirely. They say, every construction is flawed, so I'll live without one. These are the homeless. But it's clear that living without shelter is often more dangerous than living in a flawed one. That's why traditional construction emerged in the first place. But they are not sacred. They age, decay, and lose relevance. What we need now isn't blind rejection or blind tradition. We need better construction. We need constructs that are upgradable, testable, and suited for modern life. Now that the metaphors have run their course, it's time to speak plainly. Living in a world with no context is terrifying. Our brains evolved to predict, even their own ends. Without a framework, we get flooded with dread. In that state, we become vulnerable to lies, delusions, or ideologies designed to control. So we turn to belief systems, some comforting, other predatory. The most successful ones, religions, offered certainty. A creator watches over you. You have purpose. You are safe. But that illusion is fading. Logic and lack of evidence are tearing holes in the sky. And in this world of rapid changes, suspension of disbelief grows heavier by the day. So what now? What if there's a new kind of framework, not built on blind faith, but logic, science, and observation? One that says we are all part of the same sentience. Our role is to gather power until we reach the God point. One that embraces uncertainty in its concepts, instead of replacing it with lies or unverifiable promises. It sounds grand, maybe even arrogant, but unlike older constructs, this one doesn't shy away from the endpoint. It stares directly into that grand and intoxicating power. And while we cannot yet imagine the full interface of that endpoint, strangely, we can imagine its fears. The need for certainty, the paradoxes that demand resolution, the outcomes that could break a lesser framework. I will reveal those in the next and final video, but if you want peace, I advise you not to watch it. In either case, thank you for our time.